Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Cynthia and this is Halos. And we are talking about tarot card reading, and I've created 10 videos that are leading up to the real discussion that we'll be having, which will be about the tarot card meanings, which can be very in-depth. And so this, my 10th video, is really an overview of the other 10 videos, and basically what I want to say is that tarot is the center of all the other spiritual advising disciplines that there are. I think that everything, if you put tarot at the center, and any other spiritual advising method can tie into the tarot somehow. So you may not see it that way, but if you look at it from that angle, you can see that tarot can really help you in all the other avenues of spiritual advising, because all of them feed into the tarot somehow. So this has to do with a very ancient discipline called the Doctrine of Signatures. I was reading about this. It was a medical practice from ancient Rome and Greece where, and it doesn't seem like it's related, but just hear me out, I feel like it is. It's a medical philosophy where nature or God created herbal remedies to look like particular body parts so that we as human beings would know what that particular herb would treat. So if it's related to a kidney, if it looks like a kidney shaped item, it's probably related to helping the kidneys. If it's the color red, it might have been circulatory system. And I've read up a little bit on that, not very much, and they're studying this in universities in Israel now. They're trying to collect folk data and then test out and see, are these remedies really effective. So some remedies have been used for millennia, and people swear that they work. So now modern science is getting involved to see if that's true. But the Doctrine of Signatures then is what brings us into what is modernly called correspondences. And a correspondence is any object that has what I call a spiritual signature or a bouquet of different energies that relate to one thing or another. So, for example, let's talk about a rose. The spiritual signature of a rose, the spiritual bouquet of a rose, is that it has the energy of passion, of romantic love. I'm talking about a red rose. So passion, romantic love, marriage, the sense of being sweethearts. There's a lot of things that revolve around that item. And so it's used to, it's the energy that it radiates is natural energy. And that natural energy is just put forth by that item as a form of prayer on our behalf. And so if you can imagine, if we could stand on the moon and look at the earth, and if we were also able to see all of this spiritual energy coming off of all of these different plants and gemstones and trees and stuff, we would just see this beautiful radiating energy of different colors and maybe glitter and just beautiful coming off of the earth as these elements offer a prayer on our behalf, even though they don't know us. They're not really conscious in the same sense that we are, but their whole reason to exist is to send out positive intentions for us, which is also known as prayer. So to our Creator to help us with these things, and for us to ask, if you don't have a prayer partner, you actually do, you just don't know it. So that Doctrine of Signatures was the beginnings of what we now call correspondences. And correspondences then are herbs, flowers, grains, trees, gemstones, crystals that all radiate this intentional energy to support us. Maybe not cure us, but support our efforts in finding a cure, changing our attitude, or helping us in another way. So the tarot, one tarot card represents many of these kinds of things. And so as we look at each of the tarot cards, we can find that each tarot card, and let me get my glasses out again so I can see what I'm reading. So for example, a tarot card, it corresponds with, or it relates to the signature of these various things. A rune stone, a Hebrew letter, which both of those things aren't just alphabet letters, they also have symbolic meanings. To the element of air, which back in antiquity, the four elements were considered vital for medical practice. A basic meaning to the tarot card. It relates to numerology, to angel numbers, to a particular angel, a helping angel. It has associations with different health issues for certain parts of the body. It relates to star signs, or what we also know as zodiac signs, various planets, a birthstone or different birthstones, various houses of astrology, or at least one house of astrology, crystals. They can be, each tarot card can indicate various initials and names. They're related to a particular color. And each tarot card reminds us of an affirmation or an intention and helps us with the power of manifestation in one or more particular areas, which would be answered prayer. So, lots of people these days have wanted to rush out to buy drawers full of herbs, all different kinds of candles, crystals everywhere, and all of that is really beautiful, but it's expensive. So instead, you might want to get a deck of the cards, and each card represents multiples of all those other things. And so you can use those things for prediction, as well as to determine methods that you might look into for possible healing. You know, those are the kinds of questions you might ask your doctor. Protection, angelic guidance. Different gemstones are supposed to have energy that can protect you and guide you. And that is actually why jewelry came into being. In the very depths of time, people didn't wake up and go, oh, I think this necklace goes good with this dress. They were thinking, if I wear this, I'll be able to ward off a disease or an evil energy or an enemy or maybe an attacking animal. And so then as time progressed, instead of it being, you know, something that like a bone that they found, maybe they were able to undig a crystal, or they found one and thought, well, that's really pretty, I bet it will help protect me. So then as that ideology, you know, went through time, royal people, kings and queens, started to wear gemstones as well in various colors to represent these kinds of protections, and they might have even believed that. And that's why when you see royalty, and sometimes photos of them where they're wearing very fabulous jewelry or crowns or robes that are a certain color, and maybe today that monarch doesn't even know that at one time those huge, I mean, they don't wear tiny gemstones. When you look at these crowns, some of these gemstones are just huge, and these crowns are very heavy. So why would they do that? Well, to display their wealth and their power, their political power over their part of the world. But maybe it has a deeper meaning. Maybe at one time it was believed that all these various gemstones and colors brought down angelic protection, gave them certain political advantages, and different kinds of powers. So I think that it could be that they had spiritual meanings too. And, common people also thought that as well. So, and then language, the letters of the alphabet have been revered since the beginning of time as something very spiritual. We're the only beings on earth that can communicate the way we do, and writing solidifies what we say into, it immortalizes it. It's cut in stone. When you write something, it stays, and you can go back and read a letter, read a book again and again, and it never changes. So those kinds of things, language and alphabets, became sacred just because they could transfer not just knowledge, but whole ideas, wealths of ideas about spiritual things, and that became very important too. So, to close, I just want to say that tarot pulls it all together. All of the metaphysical practices that there are, or many of them. There's some that you can't do, like, the tea leaf readings probably couldn't coordinate very good with tarot, but the symbols might be able to somehow. But tarot pulls a lot of spiritual advising practices together into one place and makes it very convenient for you to share a lot of wisdom in one practice. Tarot makes it possible to simultaneously coordinate all of these other disciplines at the same time. So instead of doing multiple readings, you can give a person one reading. And if you're astute with the many things that card represents, which I have written down on index cards, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, then you can give someone a very detailed reading, and they would be very grateful to get that kind of reading. And like I said, this correspondence type ideology started way back 2,000 years ago with Roman and Greek medicine in something called the Doctrine of Signatures, and I was reading up on that just a little bit. That was a formal medical practice that went clear into the 15 and 1600s, and lately the universities in Israel are re-exploring this concept to see, is there any validity to these remedies? This kidney-shaped plant, does it really help kidneys? Let's test it, now that we have a modern ability to do that. So these symbols, they mean something, and they have spiritual energy in them that's endowed to them by their creator. And we have access to that kind of energy in the form of intentions and prayers that come out of these items on our behalf to help us. So it's prudent to learn this, because when you give a reading, it can be a very rich reading, and it can also save you a lot of time and money. Instead of going shopping for multitudes of things, you just need this. And even if you have some things, you have crystals, you have candles, there's always going to be a time when you say, that's the one I don't have. Now what? Well, you can get the coordinating tarot card out instead and use that as part of your intentional living. So that's how it pulls together. And so I'm going to let this rest. I've uploaded 10 videos to kind of lay a foundation for what I think and where I'd like my video series to go. So I'm going to let this rest for a while, and then probably next week I will come back and we will talk about what my plan is, I hope, is to talk about one card a week and all of its different signatures, or correspondences as it's commonly called now. And I like to call it the Doctrine of Signatures better, because it goes further back in time and it relates to medicine, and people in the ancient world as now we're looking for emotional, mental, and physical healing, as well as remedies to life's challenges. And so that all once fell in the realm of medicine. And I think that it still does. Healing and feeling good it's not really, it can be supernatural, but we need natural cures for those kinds of issues. So as we want supernatural help in finding natural remedies for us that can guide us to the right kind of assistance that we need and give us support. None of these things are to be a substitute for medical, psychological, psychiatric, legal help or anything like that. They just support us in our search for that. And the energy that these items have is prayer on our behalf, intentional prayer, to help us in what it is that we need to find and to where to get help. So that's how I look at it anyway. And I just think it's really interesting and beautiful too to see that in your mind's eye, that all these things have prayer energy coming out, and it's all for you. And if you think nobody cares, nobody knows about my problem, nobody is out there to walk with me or pray for me on that, well, you're not accurate with that. All of nature is doing one thing. They're praying for you all the time, full time. That's what the whole of nature is doing. And I think that's just a really beautiful concept to help us through the challenges of life. So what I want to do is do one tarot card at a time and tell you what all of these signatures are. And so to do that, if you want to follow along with that, it would be good for you to get a package of index cards from the dollar store or the grocery store. They're probably $1 there too. I think I saw them for 98 cents or something. They usually come in a pack of 100. You'll want to pick the bigger ones so you have plenty of room to write. These are the large ones. Get the largest ones you can. And then I'll tell you what the various signatures or corresponding things are. And then the back is where you would write all of the different meanings of the tarot card as you come across them. Some meanings you'll find in books, websites. Friends will look at a card and say, well, that reminds me of, or when I look at this card, here's what I think of. And some things will just come to you, and it'll be like, wow, I never thought of that. But now that I'm doing this reading, it's so clear that that's one of the meanings the tarot card has. The standard meanings that tarot cards have in books are just the beginning, just the tip of the iceberg for their meanings. And so you need a large back of a index card to write down meanings as you collect them, because they will come to you as you're doing readings. Not everything in a book is all of it. There's a lot more. And a lot of it comes through your intuition. And so you need to have a way to write down things when it comes to you. And then on the front where the lines are is where we're going to put all the things that are related signatures to them. So that's my plan, and I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, you'll have plenty of time to get the index cards, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so have a good rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.